What's up, gamers? Koobs here. Got some invasions for you. There will be some new weapons from the expansion, maybe some new armor, things like that. No new areas or bosses or anything like that, but just kind of watch at your own caution. Thanks for being here. Hope you're enjoying the expansion. We're going to be taking a look today at two new weapons. Well, I guess one weapon and a shield. And I've been such a fan of these. I think that they're really cool. They're not overly flashy, but they are incredibly versatile. And as an invader, those are some of the most important qualities that I look for on the tools that I'm looking to build around. I'm a fan of an invader known as Saint Riot, Sensei Riot, some of us might refer to him as, and also a fan of the Scrub Dojo. Shout out the Scrub Dojo. Shout out the whole government. One of the things that I've learned from Saint Riot throughout my tutelage is show and don't tell. We have to be cognizant of the fact that when we make a video and we say this new thing is overpowered and broken, this new thing is busted, right? That not only do we as invaders come across these videos, this content, but so too do the over-leveled phantoms that we all so despise. So I might not directly reference what is happening on screen, but in these clips, if you're just watching the clips, if you're paying attention, which I know that you are, because I'm sure that you can do both. You can both listen to me and watch the video at the same time. And the two things can be related without me telling you exactly what's happening, right? You can make inferences about the different decisions that I'm making or the different things that I'm trying to highlight by sharing these clips with you, if that makes sense. And so while this might not be a these tools are broken or busted video, they are showing you how you can put these tools to work. And they're different strong suits. This particular invader that I'm using is actually my level 1 invader. And so level 1 Wretch, we're using Radagon's Sore Seal and Marika's Scar Seal. So the Radagon's has given us like 20 levels, and Marika's has given us like another 12. So, I mean, from that, perspective, we're around like level 23 character level, with the number of stats that we got going on, but we're not upgrading our weapons. And it leads to some very fun invasions in the starter areas. I'm a huge fan of Stormveil Castle. I think that that's actually one of my big takeaways from playing the expansion without, getting into too much or spoiling anything. I still think that Stormveil Castle is the best designed location in all of Elden Ring. And I mean that from both a PvE and PvP perspective. Like, just going through the castle on your own, there's a lot of fun things for you to discover and a lot of interconnectedness, which really kind of calls back to the previous Souls games. And also from an invasion perspective, the ability to navigate through this complex area and kind of catch your opponent unaware because of your ability to move from one place to another within the castle. And I don't think that any of them quite deliver to the same level as Stormveil does. So I like having low-level invaders for that specific reason. I think that it just dawned on me that I don't think I actually said what the weapon and shield that we're using are. So we have I think it's called the Smithscript, or it's Scriptsmith. It's one combination of those words. Scriptsmith Axe and the Scriptsmith Shield. Both of these have the unique ability to be thrown. I like the shield a lot. And if you've been paying attention, like I know that you are, you've probably seen some of the really interesting things that this shield can do. And so being at a low level and with unupgraded weapons, it gives me an opportunity to really kind of stress test these tools, because I'm not so much worried about the damage output at this low level, right? I'm trying to figure out kind of test the limits. How far can I throw these items? How much tracking do they have? How much hit stun do they have? Can I punish with this weapon or with this tool? Things like that. And so low-level invasions give me a really good opportunity for those sorts of things. Also, at the same time, it allows me to partake in the filtering process that I think should be happening in the early game rather than it happening in the late game. See, I believe that there's this misconception that's been developed that Elden Ring is an easy game. And not to say that Elden Ring is a hard game, but it's a game that requires your respect. It's a game that requires your patience. And if you're trying to simply rush through the game, that's when you will find that it's the most challenging, in my opinion, especially if you haven't been through an area before. And I believe that what we're seeing happening is the result of a large portion of the player base having this mentality that they can just run through the game, get to the boss, and then beat the boss with the help of their overleveled phantoms, and then continue progressing. But they're missing out on the actual progression that the game is designed for. Oh, in the back here, these are I'm showing you that I do lose quite a bit handedly at these low-level invasions. Some of these things are kind of busted to deal with, so just, you know, we can look at these. I don't think that this is accurate of what the, you know, Elden Ring PvP landscape will look like long term, but there are some things that are certainly working as intended. And so what was I saying? Okay, so this idea of progression in Elden Ring that they've kind of designed the base game around, and that they've tried to translate into the DLC. I don't know how well it's translated personally, but you're becoming the Elden Lord. Your journey is meant to exemplify the fact that you are the strongest individual in the lands between, and that you have overcome every obstacle that's been put in front of you. Not that you've ran around every obstacle, but that you have confronted it head on and overcome that obstacle. That is not necessarily the case for many of us, and I think that that's where the disconnect is because at the end of the game, when you are faced with the optional bosses, and I want to reinforce that, the optional bosses of Melania, of Moog, of Placidusax, right? These bosses that you have to almost go out of your way to even find them. They're not on your direct path, you know, to the Elden Throne, if you will. It's like we're being given these challenges because they understand that we want to overcome these challenges, if that makes sense. They didn't put these challenges there just for the sake of it, to say you have to get through this if you want this really overpowered piece of gear, right? I mean, sometimes the reward is enticing in itself, but I think many of us would actually argue that the real reward is beating the challenge. And I've got a confession to make. Bloodborne is one of my favorite games of all time. I think I've done maybe 4 playthroughs now, and I've never once beat the Orphan of Kos. And that's something that it's a decision that I've made that is, like, I'm okay with that, right? I accept that that's a really difficult challenge, and maybe I don't find it the most fun to spend hours trying to overcome that specific boss, right? But that's like, really, it's accepting that has really more to do with my pride than it does anything else. Because I could say that Bloodborne is one of my favorite games of all time still, and I could tell people that I've beat the game multiple times. I don't ever have to say that I haven't beaten the Orphan of Cause, right? If that makes sense. So really, this challenge is imposed by ourselves. One of the interesting things that I'm seeing happening is that people are almost like too proud to accept the fact that the challenge is challenging. Like it's a difficult obstacle. It's a really tough boss with more health than we're used to, with more damage than we're used to. And instead of saying, you know what, I'm going to utilize all the tools that the game is giving me. In the base game, they're continuing to give us all of these spirit summons. They're giving us upgrade materials for these spirit summons. In the expansion, they're giving us materials to improve our spirit summons further. And I find it fascinating that rather than engaging with that mechanic, that part of the game, and rather than utilizing a summon in order to help you with the challenge that you're faced with, and also in order to continue to play the game in the way that you want to play the game. And you could argue with me a little bit on that, but what I mean by that is you're not changing the build that you came into this game with, right? I played through the entire expansion with a really bad build. I had 28 strength, 28 faith, 28 intelligence, 28 dex. Those are not good stats. I was using a weapon that wasn't even taking advantage of my intelligence most of the time. You don't need to optimize your build in order to beat these games. You can play them in the way that you want to play them. However, I'm not going into those saying I'm going to beat this boss without taking advantage of the fact that I have a Spirit Ash that I can summon, right? But I'm also not changing up the fundamental way that I play the game and engage with these bosses by equipping the heaviest armor set I can, using a giant shield, and just going for shield pokes and shield counters the entire time. Because that, to me, that doesn't look like these people are having fun. And you know, that's just my perspective. Maybe they are. Maybe they've discovered that this is actually a fun way for them to engage in the game. But from what I'm picking up on, it seems like they're almost like kind of like giving in at that point. They're saying this is too tough, so this is the only way that I think I can get from point A to point B. But they're completely ignoring the fact that there's something built into the game that they could utilize to help them kind of circumvent that challenge. I'm realizing that this is the end of the video and that I rambled for a good portion of it. So hopefully this commentary has been enjoyable, insightful in some way. I didn't really script anything here. I just kind of sat down and started recording commentary, and apparently these are some of the things that I had on my mind that I wanted to share. So I really appreciate you being here. I have been and always will be Coobs. Peace and love, gamers.